Hey guys, it's me and today we're diving into something super real and super important. You know, I don't usually talk politics, but when it's this big, we have to talk about it. So here's the deal. The tension between India and Pakistan isn't just a local issue anymore, it's global. And you're probably wondering, where does America really stand? In this video, I'm breaking it all down, no filters, no drama, just the truth, the facts, and a deep dive into what's really going on behind the scenes. Stay with me, because this isn't just about politics, it's about power, influence, and the future of global balance. Let's get into it. The historical relationship between the United States, India, and Pakistan is deeply rooted in a complex web of geopolitical strategies, ideological shifts, and regional power dynamics. To understand where America stands today in the India-Pakistan equation, it is essential to examine how these relationships evolved over time and why certain alliances were favored during different eras. Following the independence and partition of India and Pakistan in 1947, the United States was quick to establish diplomatic relations with both countries. However, early on, it became evident that Pakistan would become a more willing partner in the U.S. strategy to counter Soviet expansion during the Cold War. Pakistan's geographic location was of significant strategic value. It bordered both the Soviet Union and China, making it a valuable ally in America's efforts to contain communism. In the 1950s and 60s, Pakistan became a member of U.S.-led military alliances like SEATO and CENTO, and received substantial military and economic aid in return. The U.S. even used Pakistani territory for intelligence, gathering operations against the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, India under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru adopted a non-aligned policy, choosing not to formally side with either the U.S. or the USSR. Though India professed neutrality over time, its growing relationship with the Soviet Union, cemented by defense deals and mutual support, pushed the U.S. further toward Pakistan. The 1971 India-Pakistan War, which led to the creation of Bangladesh, further highlighted America's tilt toward Pakistan. At that time, the U.S., under President Nixon, even sent an aircraft carrier to the Bay of Bengal as a show of support to Pakistan, while India found more backing from the Soviets. However, this early favoritism toward Pakistan began to shift as global politics evolved. The end of the Cold War reduced the strategic urgency of supporting Pakistan. India's economic liberalization in the 1990s opened the door for stronger U.S.-India economic ties. As India embraced globalization and free market reforms, American corporations saw India as a growing market and a key player in global technology and innovation. This economic shift played a major role in reshaping U.S. interests in the region. Simultaneously, Pakistan's internal political instability, growing extremism, and controversial role in Afghanistan post-9/11 began to strain U.S.-Pakistan relations. While Pakistan was officially an ally in the war on terror, the U.S. grew increasingly frustrated with elements within Pakistan's military and intelligence agencies who were accused of supporting or tolerating terrorist groups like the Taliban and Haqqani network. The discovery of Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad in 2011, just kilometers away from a major Pakistani military base, further eroded trust between the two nations. India, in contrast, was seen as a rising democratic power with shared values in terms of governance, economic development, and regional stability. Over the last 2 decades, U.S.-India relations have steadily strengthened across areas like trade, defense, technology, and climate change. The signing of key defense agreements, joint military exercises, and mutual investments in innovation and space exploration have made India one of America's most important strategic partners in Asia. Yet, despite the strengthening of U.S.-India ties, America has not fully abandoned its relationship with Pakistan. U.S. officials still view Pakistan as critical for stability in Afghanistan, managing nuclear risks and counterterrorism operations. However, the trust deficit and lack of long-term vision in U.S. Pakistan relations contrast sharply with the growing strategic and economic synergy between the U.S. and India. Ultimately, America's historical preference for Pakistan during the Cold War has shifted significantly in favor of India, but remnants of past alliances and regional necessities still shape a delicate and often ambiguous U.S. position in the India-Pakistan rivalry. The United States' strategic interests in South Asia play a major role in shaping its stance toward both India and Pakistan. This region holds immense importance for global stability, trade routes, counterterrorism, and the evolving balance of power, particularly with the growing influence of China. As a result, America's policies toward India and Pakistan are often crafted not just on the basis of bilateral relationships, but through the lens of broader geopolitical objectives and long-term regional goals. One of the primary strategic concerns for the U.S. in South Asia is maintaining regional stability. The relationship between India and Pakistan has historically been tense, marked by wars, border skirmishes, and an ongoing dispute over Kashmir. The U.S. is deeply interested in preventing an all-out conflict between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. As such, a war would not only destabilize the region, but could also draw in other powers and disrupt global peace. For this reason, Washington has often played the role of a diplomatic balancer, urging restraint from both sides during crises. However, this balancing act is not always perceived as neutral by either India or Pakistan, and it complicates America's ability to fully commit to one side without risking regional backlash. Another major U.S. strategic interest is counterterrorism. After the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. declared Pakistan a major non-NATO ally due to its geographical proximity to Afghanistan. Pakistan's cooperation was vital for logistical and intelligence support in the war against the Taliban and al-Qaeda. For years, the U.S. relied on Pakistani airspace, military bases, and ground access routes to supply troops in Afghanistan. However, concerns grew over Pakistan's dual role in fighting terrorism while allegedly harboring terrorist groups on its soil. Despite this, the U.S. has continued to engage with Pakistan because of its potential influence over militant networks and its critical position in any long-term peace process in Afghanistan. India, on the other hand, has emerged as a key strategic partner for the U.S. in balancing China's expanding influence in Asia. As China becomes more assertive in the Indo-Pacific region, militarizing the South China Sea, strengthening its Belt and Road Initiative, and increasing border tensions with India, Washington sees New Delhi as a natural counterweight. The U.S. has elevated its defense and intelligence cooperation with India, supported India's role in multilateral groups like the Quad, which includes the U.S., Japan, Australia, and India, and promoted shared values such as democracy, freedom of navigation, and respect for international law. Economic strategy is also a major consideration in American interests. India's large and growing economy presents enormous opportunities for trade, investment, and technology partnerships. From defense deals and pharmaceutical collaboration to energy security and digital infrastructure, India offers a reliable and rapidly advancing market. The U.S. views this economic partnership not just as a source of growth, but as a means to deepen strategic trust. Conversely, while Pakistan's economy is significantly smaller and more fragile, it remains a focal point due to concerns about debt dependency on China, internal instability, and the possibility of becoming a failed state, which could threaten U.S. U.S. interests in the wider region. Additionally, nuclear nonproliferation is a quiet but critical U.S. priority. Both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers, and the U.S. is deeply invested in ensuring that nuclear weapons remain secure and that there are strong controls against unauthorized use or transfer to extremist groups. This has led to back-channel negotiations, military contacts, and intelligence cooperation with both nations to maintain oversight and prevent escalations. Ultimately, the U.S. approach to South Asia is guided by its desire to balance regional stability, counterterrorism needs, economic opportunities, and strategic competition with China. This forces America into a complex diplomatic position where it must navigate historical rivalries, internal politics, and regional sensitivities while trying to maintain its own long-term influence. The role of defense and military support has been a central factor in shaping the United States' relationships with both India and Pakistan. These defense ties are not merely about arms sales or military training. They reflect deeper geopolitical priorities and trust levels between the countries involved. Over the decades, America's military support patterns have shifted significantly in South Asia, evolving in line with its changing strategic objectives, regional dynamics, and the performance of each partner in meeting shared security goals. Historically, the U.S. was far more militarily aligned with Pakistan. During the Cold War era, the U.S. saw Pakistan as a frontline state against Soviet expansion, especially due to its proximity to both the USSR and the Middle East. As a result, Washington provided Pakistan with significant military aid, including weapons systems, aircraft, and training for its armed forces. The partnership intensified during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, when Pakistan became a critical conduit for American support to the Afghan Mujahideen. The CIA, in collaboration with Pakistan's ISI, channeled arms and funds to Afghan fighters battling Soviet forces, marking one of the most extensive covert operations of that era. Pakistan, in turn, was rewarded with billions of dollars in military and economic aid. However, these defense ties began to erode as concerns mounted about Pakistan's role in supporting militant groups in the region. After 9/11, the U.S. again relied heavily on Pakistan for its war on terror, using Pakistani bases and logistics for operations in Afghanistan. But over time, U.S. frustration grew due to Pakistan's ambiguous approach to terrorist groups. While Pakistan helped capture key al-Qaeda figures and allowed drone strikes in its tribal areas, it was also accused of sheltering the Taliban and turning a blind eye to insurgents targeting U.S. forces. The final blow to military trust came when U.S. Navy SEALs found and killed Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad without informing Pakistani authorities, revealing a severe intelligence gap and highlighting America's deep mistrust. This incident prompted a review of military aid, leading to significant cuts and stricter conditions on future support. On the other hand, U.S. India defense relations have undergone a remarkable transformation. Initially, during the Cold War, India maintained close defense ties with the Soviet Union and was wary of American intentions in the region. But as India liberalized its economy and sought to modernize its military, the U.S. saw an opportunity to build a new strategic partner. In the early 2000s, both nations began to formalize defense cooperation through foundational agreements, joint exercises, and technology transfers. Agreements such as the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, LMOA, and Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement COMCASA have enhanced military interoperability and intelligence sharing. India has become one of the largest buyers of American defense equipment, purchasing aircraft, drones, missile systems, and surveillance tools. These deals are not just commercial. They reflect a deepening strategic trust and a shared interest in countering threats like terrorism, piracy, and growing Chinese military assertiveness. The two countries regularly conduct joint naval and air force drills, and U.S. defense officials frequently engage with their Indian counterparts on matters ranging from cyber defense to space security. India's participation in the Quad and Indo-Pacific security frameworks further aligns it with U.S. defense objectives in the broader Asia-Pacific region. Additionally, American defense companies see India as a key long-term partner for code development and co-production of advanced weapons and technologies. This signals not only a buyer-seller relationship, but a strategic convergence rooted in shared long-term interests. In contrast, defense ties with Pakistan have become more transactional, limited in scope, and clouded by suspicion. Overall, the evolution of America's defense and military support reflects its shifting trust and priorities, favoring India as a strategic partner and treating Pakistan more as a tactical necessity subject to conditions and scrutiny. Economic partnerships and global diplomacy are at the heart of how the United States manages its relationships with both India and Pakistan. In today's interconnected world, trade, investment, and diplomatic alignment play a crucial role in shaping alliances and influencing geopolitical decisions. Over the past few decades, the economic relationship between the U.S. and India has rapidly expanded, while the partnership with Pakistan has remained comparatively limited and heavily dependent on aid, creating a clear contrast in how America views each country in terms of long-term strategic value. India's rise as a major economic power has positioned it as an increasingly important partner for the United States. With a population of over 1.4 billion and a fast-growing middle class, India presents a massive consumer market for American goods and services. U.S. businesses have invested heavily in India's information technology, energy, pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing sectors, while Indian companies have also made significant inroads in the U.S., particularly in tech and healthcare. The two nations have formed high-level dialogues such as the U.S.-India Strategic and Commercial Dialogue to strengthen collaboration in areas like entrepreneurship, innovation, digital technology, and green energy. Beyond business, India's role in global supply chains has made it more important than ever in Washington's eyes. As the U.S. seeks to reduce its dependence on China, it sees India as a natural alternative for manufacturing and technological partnerships. India's skilled workforce, improving infrastructure, and business-friendly reforms have drawn the attention of major U.S. corporations looking to diversify their operations. This economic interdependence is not only profitable but also politically valuable, creating shared interests that support a stable and cooperative relationship between the two democracies. In contrast, Pakistan's economic engagement with the U.S. has remained largely aid-driven rather than trade-driven. Historically, American economic assistance to Pakistan has been tied to security cooperation and political support rather than market integration. While the U.S. has provided billions of dollars in aid for infrastructure, education, and disaster relief, private sector investment has remained minimal due to Pakistan's internal challenges such as political instability, energy shortages, corruption, and terrorism. As a result, the economic partnership between the two countries lacks the depth and mutual benefit that characterizes U.S.-India ties. Another area where economic and diplomatic interests intersect is the use of global platforms and multilateral institutions. The U.S. has consistently supported India's growing leadership in international organizations, including backing India's bid for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. India's active role in the G20 BRICS, and other global forums also aligns with America's goal of engaging emerging powers that share democratic values and are committed to a rules-based international order. Additionally, India has positioned itself as a leading voice for the Global South, giving the U.S. another reason to partner with it in addressing global challenges like climate change, health crises, and digital regulation. Pakistan, while still important diplomatically, has found itself more isolated in these forums. Increasing reliance on China, especially through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC), has raised concerns in Washington about Pakistan's strategic orientation. The U.S. remains cautious of Pakistan's deepening economic dependence on Beijing, viewing it as a potential leverage point for China in South Asia. This has contributed to Washington's growing preference for India as a more independent, economically stable, and globally influential ally. Furthermore, people-to-people ties between the U.S. and India have created a foundation for long-term diplomatic alignment. The large Indian-American community has contributed to stronger cultural, academic, and economic connections. Indian students are among the largest groups of international students in the U.S., and Indian professionals play a significant role in Silicon Valley and other sectors. These human connections reinforce diplomatic goodwill and ensure that the relationship is supported by more than just government policies. The contrast in economic engagement and diplomatic alignment between the U.S., India, and U.S. Pakistan relationships highlights America's evolving priorities in South Asia, where economic growth, innovation, and shared democratic values thrive. Diplomacy naturally follows, shaping stronger and more sustainable global partnerships.